This year, the daily trainer market is more saturated than ever. Everyone can find something for themselves, whether you're looking for shoes for easy training, for beginners, or something more versatile. I'm a fan of the last category. I like shoes that can do everything, maybe not perfectly, but they maintain a certain level of quality. It would also be great if such shoes didn't cost a fortune. My favorites this year are the New Balance Rebel V4 and Adidas Adizero SL2. But I've heard many good things about the star of today's video, and I wouldn't be myself if I didn't test what all the fuss is about. Introducing the Hoka Mach 6. Hi, I'm Michał, an amateur runner who is deeply into running shoes. On this channel I review gear and shoes and discuss various running related topics. If this interests you, feel free to subscribe and comment. It really helps me reach new people. Thanks. And before I get into my feelings about running in the Hoka Mach 6, I need to mention that I bought these shoes myself and no one influenced the opinions I will share here or saw this video before you did. And I'm also not affiliated with any store or brand producing running shoes. As always, let's start with the technical details. The upper is made of thin, breathable mesh, which allows your feet to breathe very well in these shoes. The heel counter is relatively firm and tall, but also narrow, which keeps the heel in place and prevents it from moving around. Inside there's a soft plush lining, which further increases comfort. The tongue is reminiscent of racing shoes rather than everyday trainers. It's very thin, flexible and integrated with the upper, which helps hold the foot in place. In terms of length, it's moderate, but in my case the top part folded over after just a few steps. That didn't really affect my running, but I had to mention it since it happened consistently. The lacing is standard and there are extra eyelets for the heel lock here, but really I didn't need them in my size, 45 1/3. Why? Because the Hoka Mach 6 is a relatively narrow shoe. My medium width feet occupy almost all of the available space in this model, especially here in the forefoot. If you have wide feet, I'd worry about too much compression on your toes. The midfoot area is better, but still relatively snug. And in terms of length, I see no deviations from the norm. Other Hoka models in the same size provided about the same amount of room for my toes. The midsole is a thick layer of supercritical EVA foam. Hoka didn't experiment with Pebax here, but they've maximized the potential of EVA foam. It's relatively soft, but not overly so, and offers excellent responsiveness. Running fast in these shoes is pure joy, but more on that later in the video. As is often the case with Hoka shoes, we have the meta rocker here, so an upward curve in the forefoot. The idea is to facilitate the foot's rolling motion. In this case, it works beautifully, regardless of whether you're landing on your heel or midfoot. And there's 37mm of foam under the heel and 32mm under the forefoot, giving us a 5mm drop. By today's standards, the Mach 6 is a medium to high cushion shoe. And yes, I know that just a year or two ago we would have called this very high cushioning, but times have changed a bit. The outsole is generously covered with the rubber almost along the entire shoe length, but the layer is relatively thin, about 1–1.5mm. It's a trade-off. You get a lot of surface coverage but not as much thickness, which is likely a decision aimed at keeping the shoe's weight down. The tread is purely road style, but I must say that the Mach 6 is one of the best shoes I've tested this year in terms of grip. I've run in various conditions without any slipping. That's a huge plus. Of course, I must point out that if you take them out on icy sidewalks, snow or mud, I wouldn't expect miracles, but these aren't shoes designed for such conditions. The sample size 42 EU weighs 235 grams or 8.3 ounces. In my size 45 1/3 they weigh 246 grams, so 8.7 ounces. These are fantastic results for everyday trainers. For context, the Hoka Rocket X2 racing shoes in the same size weigh only 1.5 grams less. At the same time, they are 15 grams heavier than the New Balance Rebel V4, but with the Mach, you get an extra 3 to 4 millimeters of foam in the midsole. Alright, but how did they run? As you would with versatile shoes, I've tested them across a full range of training scenarios. I've done short intervals, longer tempo runs, easy runs, and of course, long runs. What did I like? First of all, the sensations during faster training sessions. Of course, I won't pretend that running in the Mach is as dynamic and pleasant as in shoes specifically designed for speed, like Hoka Mach X2 or Nike Zoom Fly 6, but they are really good for shoes at this price point and versatility. With each ground contact you feel a light bounce and forward propulsion. Once you get into a rhythm, it's hard to stop. Interestingly, this applied to short intervals, so like 100 or 200 meters, and also for longer ones, so 1 to 3K. And what about slower runs? They're good here too. The cushioning in this shoe is sufficient to cover more kilometers comfortably. Unlike shoe with plates, these don't push you forward. You can comfortably tick off the miles, and this versatility is a massive advantage of Mach 6. I mentioned earlier that the upper is relatively narrow. For some, this might be a disadvantage, while for others, it is an advantage. For me, it is the latter. The Mach 6 fits my foot perfectly, they're just wide enough and the length is spot on. My foot doesn't move sideways and I didn't experience any chafing. I'm genuinely impressed because I've never had such perfectly fitting shoes before, and that's why I keep reaching for them despite having other shoes to test. A big plus is also their lightness. Running in the Mach doesn't feel like wearing bricks. There are lighter options like the previously mentioned New Balance Rebel, but the max weight is low enough to satisfy most runners. Another strength is the grip. I've run in various autumn weather conditions and I never slipped. The shoes grip the ground fantastically, and compared to competitors, I can't say the same about any other shoe I've tested this year. And finally, a subjective point, the Mach 6 in this colorway looks fantastic. I don't really like Hoka's typically flashy colorways, but this one is perfect for me. And what didn't I like? On longer distances, above 15K, I started to lose the sense of softness, so maybe they are not perfect for really long runs. And that's just about it. I honestly don't have major complaints about these shoes. I thought that after the excellent Rebel V4 or the surprisingly good Adizero SL2, nothing would surprise me in the lightweight daily trainer category, but here we are. I see several options here if we wanted to build a running shoe rotation around the Hoka Mach 6. Let's start with the most extensive rotation. Of course, we are talking only about the Hoka shoes. Assuming the Mach 6 is our daily trainer, I look for shoes specifically for faster training, long runs and races. For faster training, the choice is obvious, the Hoka Mach X2. They are like Machs on steroids. More responsive foam paired with a P-Bax plate. The ideal option for long runs is the Hoka Skyward X. It offers maximum cushioning, a plate that stabilizes the foot well, and is perfect for long runs. Of course, we can talk about the Cliftons or the Bondi. They are also a good option for long, easy runs, but for me, I think Skyward X is the best one. And for races, I'd choose the Hoka Rocket X2. I know there's also the Cielo X1, but honestly, the Rockets speak to me more in terms of racing. Plus, I've completed a marathon and a few half marathons in them. But what if we wanted to save a bit, both money and space in the closet? Honestly, I see the potential for a two-shoe rotation here. The Hoka Mach 6 is a versatile daily trainer, and then the Hoka Cielo X1 for races and long runs. In this regard, the Cielo X1 feels much more enjoyable than the Rockets. So you could go with those, or you could swap the Cielo X1 for the Mach X2 in a slightly more budget-friendly option. So those are like two options for a two-shoe rotation if it comes to the Hoka lineup. And now let's talk about the alternatives. The official price of the Mach 6 is $140 or 160 euros, which places it in the mid-range daily trainer segment. And what might catch your attention in a similar budget? An obvious alternative is the shoe that I already mentioned like a lot today, so the New Balance Rebel V4. These are even lighter, equally dynamic shoes, but with much softer cushioning and much wider upper, making them a better option for runners with wider feet. Until recently I thought this model would be my favorite in the race for the best daily trainer of 2024, but well, things have changed a bit. The official price is the same as with Mach 6, so $140 and 160 euros. And the next option is cheaper, the Adidas Adizero SL2. It was one of the biggest surprises for me this year, officially priced at about $130 and 130 euros. It can easily compete with more expensive options. They're dynamic, the cushioning is moderate, but running in them is genuinely enjoyable. At that price, they are a no-brainer. You won't find anything better. And the last alternative is the ASICS Nova Blast 4. The launch of version 5 is just around the corner, but the 4s are still a great option for now. They offer excellent cushioning combined with decent dynamics. They are a do-it-all shoe, though they lose out to the Max for faster training, in my opinion. Nova Blast 4s cost $150 or 150 euros, and the 5th version is also supposed to be slightly cheaper. Of course, the review of the 5s will definitely appear on my channel. You will find reviews of the first two options on my channel, so links are here in the description somewhere. Let's quickly sum up. The Hoka Mach 6 is a fantastic lightweight daily trainer. It's very versatile and for many runners can genuinely be a one shoe for everything option, including racing. Considering the narrow upper and the cushioning used, I'd recommend them for runners weighing less than 85 kilograms. For the price Hoka is asking for the model, it's hard to find any faults. Running in these shoes is fantastic and you'll feel like putting them on for your next training session, which in itself is a strong recommendation. Great job, Hoka! If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing, liking and commenting on this video. I'd love to hear what you think about these shoes. Also check out my Instagram and put in the comments which other shoe would you like to see the review here of. And that's all for today. So thanks and see you in the next video.